Whoa, what is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, we're going to dive into Daniel Jones, and I'm going to give my 5 reasons why I believe Daniel Jones will have a breakout season in 2023. And by year's end, most people around the league, most fans around the league will look at Daniel Jones's contract like Joe Shane got himself a bargain. That's my honest belief going into the year. Of course, there are reasons why he may fail, and I may make a video talking about that, the points to the contrary, why Daniel Jones may disappoint in 2023. But I believe in my heart of hearts that this year, Daniel Jones will have a significant jump for this football team. And a lot of the people that made fun of that contract will be looking at themselves and saying, well, that contract doesn't look nearly as bad as I once initially said that it did when the Giants signed Jones to the contract that they did. So we'll talk about the 5 reasons in this video as to why that is. I'm also going to have another video up probably later today on the salary cap. I was kind of waiting till all the contracts came out so I could look at the long-term vision for Joe Shane and breaking down the salary cap both in 2024 and 2025 and talking about the long-term vision of this football team and how he set it up to build this team over the next 4 or 5 seasons. So looking forward to really diving into that, making a video on that as well. But I thought this would be an interesting topic to go over those reasons. Before we start and dive into the reasons, let's first talk about the contract so we can put it in context for people that continue to slam the contract. This is based off of total guaranteed money. That's how I structured the list because at the end of the day, that's what really matters. And when you look at the list right now, Daniel Jones is, I think, 12th. Let's count it. Watson, Herbert, Jackson, Hurts, Wilson, Murray, Allen, Mahomes, that's 8. Prescott, 9. Stafford, 10. Goff, 11. Daniel Jones is 12th. The only quarterbacks behind him that are not on rookie salaries are Derek Carr, Ryan Tannehill, Aaron Rodgers, Kirk Cousins, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Geno Smith. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So only 6 quarterbacks that are on second contracts are the only quarterbacks in terms of total guaranteed money that are behind them. And of those quarterbacks, Derek Carr is 32, Tannehill's 35, Rodgers restructured his contract, otherwise he would have been above him with the Jets, is 40. Kirk Cousins is 35 and signed his deal, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. Jimmy Garoppolo is 32 and Geno Smith is 33. Jones being 26 and having a much higher ceiling than a lot of those quarterbacks that I just mentioned, due in large part to his age and the fact that he's an unknown due to his upbringing since he's been in the league and his dual threat capabilities, I think should be higher than them in terms of total guaranteed money. When you really look at that list, the only guy, in my opinion, that you could argue would be Cousins because of the success he's had throughout his career, and Aaron Rodgers. But Rodgers, like I said, took a discount to be able to compete with the Jets. So that's just my opinion on the matter. So I think going into the year, the contract looks pretty good. But I think this contract's going to look even better by year's end because of the 5 reasons that I'm going to go over in this video. And the first thing that I'm going to go over, the first reason, is the fact that it's the second year in the same offense. And I think a lot of people don't really take that into account. Or if they do, they don't take it into account as much as they should. That's a very important factor when it comes to a quarterback. You watch the quarterback documentary on Netflix. You watch Kirk Cousins talk about how he was in the first year of a new offense. He felt like he was a rookie all over again because it was like learning Chinese because he had never played in that system. NFL offenses are very complex, especially an offense like Brian Dable and Mike Kafka. You saw Daniel Jones start to develop and start to evolve over the second half of the season. This year, he should hit the ground running, being that he's already played in the offense. And he should pick it up much quicker. And I expect Daniel Jones, due in large part to that, to have a much bigger and better statistical season this year for the New York Giants. What will those stats be? I don't know. Is he going to play 17 games? Is he going to stay healthy? But when he's on the field, I see no reason to think why he can't throw for 30 touchdowns. People say, oh, what are you talking about? He had 24 his rookie year and 12 starts. Okay, that's on pace to have 32 touchdowns. It all comes down to the offensive philosophy, what the New York Giants come out with, what they feel gives them the best chance to win. But you have to figure, based on the fact that they gave Daniel Jones a $40 million per year contract, went out there, traded for Darren Waller, went out there, signed Paris Campbell, drafted Jalen Hyatt. They're trying to invest in big plays, right? They're trying to open up this offense. And we'll talk further about that when we go over the weapons that the New York Giants added to this offense. But I think, yes, Daniel Jones is in for a much bigger season. Now, let's put it in further context. Let's look at other quarterbacks around the league that had second years in their offense. And before I get into this, of course, not every situation is the same. Of course, there's different reasons and different variables that you could point to with each individual why they may have had a bigger jump year 2 in that offense. But if you're going to ignore the fact that having a second year in the same offense didn't at least further develop their stats, and make them appear to be better quarterbacks, I think you're fooling yourself. First quarterback we're going to look at is Mr. Goff, Jared Goff, second year with the Lions. And again, it's apples and oranges. It's a different situation. And Goff did play, I think, 2 more games this past year, but his interceptions were down despite that, and his yards were way up. He jumped from 32-45 to 44-38. And yes, I recognize that Goff's situation with the Lions is not the same as Daniel Jones. Goff has at least equal weapons, I think, at this point, now that we added Darren Waller, and he has a far superior offensive line. We'll see how the New York Giants offensive line develops this year, but you can make an argument that the Lions have one of the top 4, 5, 6 offensive lines in the sport. So that certainly helps, assist Jared Goff. But look at the increase in production. He added 10 touchdowns. He dropped 1 interception. His QB rating went up by 8. His yards went up by 1,200. So he developed, and obviously they opened up that offense a lot more year 2 in the offense for Jared Goff. Next guy we'll go over is Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, a lot of people forget, of course, he had 2 back-to-back MVP seasons. But before that first MVP season, before we saw the resurgence of Aaron Rodgers, the year before 2019, which is why they added a new head coach and a new offensive scheme, and 2019, a lot of people felt like Aaron Rodgers had kind of peaked, that he was, age was finally starting to catch up to him when he was 37, 38 years old when they brought in LaFleur. His first year, his stats didn't jump off the charts. They were good. They were very good, but they didn't scream Aaron Rodgers. They didn't scream MVP. Well, look at it from year 1 to year 2 in the scheme with LaFleur. He jumped from 26 touchdowns to 48 and only added 1 interception with obviously a lot more attempts. 48 touchdowns, 5 picks, insane, right? I think probably, if not the best, second or third best all time. I think it has to be the best. That's a near 10-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. To have a 22 increase in terms of touchdowns, his QB rating jumped 30 points, almost 27 points, whatever it is. His completion percentage jumped from 62 to 70, and his yards went up by 300. So obviously a lot more production for Aaron Rodgers year 1 to year 2 in the scheme. Next up, Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson in 2019, they added Tim Kelly as the offensive coordinator. Had a good year, threw for 38, 52, 26, and 12. Obviously, I'm not showing his rushing statistics in this, and I won't with Jalen Hurts, who's going to be up next, which is another factor as well when you evaluate dual-threat quarterbacks. But he jumped from a 67% completion percentage to 70, 1,000 yards in terms of yards. 1,000 more from year 1 to year 2 in the scheme. He had 7 more touchdowns and 5 less interceptions. And again, his QB rating jumped by 14 points, which is huge. Next up, Jalen Hurts. You noticing something, guys, year 1 to year 2? Sorry about that. Became unmuted. I've been having trouble with the mic, so we'll go to the bad mic for the rest of the video. Sorry about that. Are you noticing a theme with these quarterbacks that I'm going over so far, though, in this video? Jalen Hurts jumps from a 87 to a 101. Touchdowns go up, interceptions go down, yards go up. Has a MVP-like season, right? I think he was top 3, 4 in the MVP voting this past year. So I think the same for Daniel Jones. Not to say he's going to be top 3 or 4 MVP. I hope so. That'd be great. But I think Daniel Jones, much like these other quarterbacks, is going to see a big increase in production, due in large part to the fact that he's second year in this offense with Brian Daboll and Mike Kafka, an offense last year that displayed they could get the most out of what is provided to them. You factor in the deficiencies that they had, same deficiencies as Jones in terms of the wide receivers, the fact that they were dealing with a quarterback first year in their offense, to jump that offense from dead last or second to last, whatever it was in red zone efficiency in terms of scoring touchdowns when you get down there, to top 5 in one season is a marvelous job. And I only expect that to continue. Maybe they won't be top 5, but I expect them to be one of the better red zone offenses in the National Football League because their play callers are incredible. So I think, you got to have confidence going into this next season, if you're a New York Giants fan, with Daniel Jones, that he will take a significant leap. And I think that's due in large part to the fact that it's year 2 in the scheme. The next thing I'll talk about is the offensive line play. And there's not a lot of, to diagnose here. I just think the offensive line is going to be better. How much better? I don't know. And I think that's the biggest question for this season, is how much better does the offensive line get? But just the fact that Daniel Jones is year 2 in the scheme, I think should help the offensive line. The fact that the quarterback is more confident in the plays that he's calling, the players around him know the offense better as well, That alone, I think, should help the offensive line. You have to figure that Evan Neal is going to get better, a young player that obviously was a very high-end prospect. Everybody thought he warranted a top 10 pick in last year's draft. One of the better tackle prospects to come out over the last 5 or 6 years. So there's no reason to think that he shouldn't take a jump. There's no reason to think that John Michael Schmitz should not develop into a pretty good center as the year wears along. And I would think he should be a little bit better, at least in his rookie season, than that of John Feliciano last year, but that remains to be seen. But I have to think that the offensive line is going to get better for the things that I talked about. Also, the added weaponry, the improved weapons should help assist not just Daniel Jones, but the offensive line, because it makes the offense, less predictable. So I think the offensive line improvement is going to help assist Daniel Jones in having a better and bigger year in 2023. The bigger jump that the offensive line takes, the bigger jump that Daniel Jones will take. And that's why we keep hammering home as Giants fans, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be on YouTube. In my opinion, at least, the biggest X factor for this team in 2023 is Evan Neal. If Evan Neal can even develop into an average right tackle in his second season, similar to that Andrew Thomas did in his second season, he was better than average, but he took a significant leap. If Evan Neal could take a big leap from being one of the worst tackles in the league to a league average tackle, which I don't think is far-fetched to think is possible, this offense will be significantly better this year, and Daniel Jones will obviously benefit because of it. So that, I think the offensive line improvement is a big reason why Daniel Jones could take a pretty big leap in 2023. Next up, the added weaponry, the improved weapons around Daniel Jones. And you can't argue it, right? We'll start with the guys that are coming back, specifically Isaiah Hodgins. You have to think Hodgins should be even better year or two in this offense. Last year, he got thrown into the fire week 10, week 11, had never had a practice with Daniel Jones. Yes, he had familiarity with Dable Williams with Buffalo, which is why the Giants probably targeted him to begin with. But having a full offseason to work with Daniel Jones, improve with Daniel Jones, you would think that chemistry should only get better. Of course, he brings back Slayton, who's been with Jones since he's been here, so there's chemistry there to begin with. But then you go out there and you add Paris Campbell. Paris Campbell, really good fit in this offense, versatile. You could do multiple things with him. You add a guy like Jalen Hyatt in the draft, which brings a speed dynamic to this offense. But obviously the most important piece in the passing game is going to be Darren Waller. Darren Waller last year in just 9 games had 9 plays of over 20 yards or more. He only had, I think it was 28 catches. 33% of his catches are right around there, went for over 20 yards. Last year, the New York Giants as a whole in 17 games had 27 20-yard passing games. Waller, had he played 17, was on pace to have 17 by himself. So adding him to this offense is going to inevitably add more big plays for the New York Giants. And I think that's a major reason why they added him. He's had other years in the past where he had 13, where he had 16, 20-yard plus plays. It's also going to make all the weapons around him better because more eyes are going to be on Darren Waller. So the improved weapons, of course, should make it so Daniel Jones should have a bigger statistical year in 2023 as he continues to improve as a quarterback. I don't think that's really debatable. All those guys are definitely going to improve. And I love the dynamic that he and all these other guys that I talked about, the Hyatts, the Campbells, add to this offense. It adds more speed. It adds more versatility. You think about the speed, Waller, super speedy, right? For a tight end, that's a mismatch nightmare against linebackers. Paris Campbell ran in the low 4.3s. The same thing can be said for a guy like Jalen Hyatt. So more speed on the outside. That's something more to worry about for opposing defenses going into 2023. So far, my 3 reasons are the improved weapons, the improved offensive line, and I think most importantly, the second year in an offense for Daniel Jones. Fourth up, and this is, I think a lot of people don't take this into account when they talk about quarterbacks. Fourth up for me is going to be the improved defense. That comes into play for me. Improved defense and special teams. A better defense is going to help your quarterback out more, right? You're going to get better field position. You're going to create more turnovers, shorter field, more opportunities to put it in the end zone. Well, last year, the New York Giants defense was very strong in the red zone. They were decent on third down, but where they really struggled, 2 key areas for me. One, they didn't create enough turnovers at all. Last year, the New York Giants in created turnovers, when you look at this, they were 25th in the league in created turnovers, and they were 31st in interceptions. As a team last year, the New York Giants only had 6 interceptions. Well, you have to figure with the improved D-line play, with the improved cornerback play, second year in the defense, more aggression, you have to figure we're going to create more turnovers this year, creating more scoring opportunities for Daniel Jones in the offense. Look at the starting field position. And obviously the run defense was a major liability last year as well. When you look at the average yards per carry of our opponents, we were 31st in the league. We gave up 5.2 yards per carry. So that, I think, will significantly improve with the addition of Bobby Okereke and obviously A'Shawn Robinson and Nacho and everything else. The other thing, look at the starting field position for the offense. Last year, we ranked 27th in the National Football League in terms of starting field position. We averaged drives starting on our 26.7 yard line, and that, I think, has to do with defense and, of course, special teams. Our punt coverage was horrible last year. I think it's going to be better. Why? Because we have an improved roster. That should trickle down to special teams. So all of those factors, I think, are going to lead to more scoring opportunities for Daniel Jones, and I think it's going to lead to this offense being able to put more points on the board. So I'm going to go with an improved defense and special teams unit as being a big contributing factor as to why Daniel Jones could have a big leap in 2023. And then my fifth reason, it's not so much statistical, it's more opinion-based, but confidence. If you're Daniel Jones going into this year, how do you not have more confidence? And not just confidence from Daniel Jones, but confidence from the coaching staff in Daniel Jones. They've obviously expressed that confidence. They gave him his bag. And to me, that signifies we're going to put more faith in you. We're going to open up this offense. And Jones, so far in the press conferences, to me, at least the vibe that I've gotten, feels a lot more confidence in himself. And that's probably due in large part that the New York Giants showed confidence in him. I think that could go a big way as well towards Daniel Jones having a breakout year in 2023. How big will the breakout be? Well, I want you guys to put your thoughts in the comments below. I don't know how big it's going to be, but I do think by year's end, most people will say Daniel Jones is either a top 10 quarterback or damn near close. And I'm not just talking about Giants fans. I'm talking about NFL fans. I think we have one of the better coaching staffs in the league. We've improved our weapons pretty significantly. They're not where they need to be yet, but from where it was, it's a big improvement. The offensive line should get better. The defense should create more turnovers, more scoring opportunities for the New York Giants offense. And I just think Daniel Jones is going to have a lot more confidence going into this season. I'm really excited year 2 for Jones in the offense, and I'm excited for the defense as well. I can't wait for this football team. As always, guys, if you like what you watch, please subscribe, drop a comment, maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.